This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Daily Business News for people who make their own decisions. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is very, very, very different to the weekday show. It is all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest business news story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's not getting the attention that we feel that it deserves, and then our favourite story that can be like business adjacent. It doesn't have to be hardcore business. It is a competition, of course. And so we are joined every week by a judge to pick a winner. And that judge, he pretty much just draws it out of the hat, doesn't he? That judge is our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael, and good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Adam. Good morning.
Today, my focus is, from this point on, is on brevity, clarity, and being concise.
How many times do you reckon you'll tell us that in the next 30 minutes?
Probably 4, maybe 5. Can I give you a challenge, Adam?
Yes, please.
To go through your criteria in 18 seconds or less.
All right. Number 1, topicality. That's what we
Adam,
want for our listeners.
Do you reckon, do you reckon that brevity isn't an issue for you or me? Like 2 of the 3 of us are okay on brevity.
I'd say like the Goldilocks theory, Sean, definitely not for you, a little bit for me, but mostly for Michael.
You know what? I'm going to start very early today calling out the BS when I see it.
18 seconds is up, Adam.
It's just topicality. That's all we're going for today.
Sean is the reason why this show blows out. Because if I was just left to talk, I would just talk in a contained kind of unit and I'd be done.
Oh, my God.
It's your interjections,
did you
your
know?
interruptions.
So last week's show was particularly long. Did you know I was timing it? Michael finished. He had the biggest story of the week. He started. It was 9 minutes 53 by the time Michael had finished the biggest story. And I'm serious. Like basically a third of the time.
53 seconds of substance and 9 minutes of dramatic flair.
Yeah, the melodrama. So just quickly, you did say topicality, timeliness.
Yes. Economic impact, very important. Pure subjective bias, that's mine. And lastly, of course, melodrama.
Which actually leads me into, and this is not going off topic at all.
No.
A message that we received from a listener during the week.
Is it an early protest?
No protest at all. I want to start on a good note because this show can get quite nasty, it can get quite personal, and we've got to remember who it's for. This is a family show, after all, and this message came from Liam, and it's a nomination for the most enthusiastic advocate.
Okay.
The Mia Award. Remember how we give out mugs for our Mia?
Certainly do, Michael.
And Liam says, my 7, almost 8-year-old son, Finn, insists on listening to the podcast every time we get in the car. He argues the point with his older siblings that, quote, it's very important for dad's business. And another quote, sometimes it's really funny.
Go, Finn.
I love it.
Come on, Finn.
And Liam goes on to say, he's been listening every weekend and most mornings for about a year now. And while I'm sure most of it is probably kind of not really relevant to him, he loves the weekend edition and cheers whenever I put it on. And the reason why I am reading this the reason why I am dedicating today's show
Bring it home, Michael.
to Finn is because Liam says that Finn is a big fan of the melodrama. So Finn is one of my people. So Finn, this is for you. And Liam then finishes, thanks for the pod. Regular listener myself, and I force co-workers to listen whenever I'm on a work trip. What do you reckon, Adam? Do you reckon Mia?
Mugs on the way.
Mugs on the way. Thank you, Liam, and thank you, Finn, for listening. I will do my best to inject a suitable amount of melodrama into today's show. Shall we just jump straight into the biggest?
Oh, let's jump straight in.
Yeah, straight in.
Enough of this jibber jabber from the two of you.
Go for it, Michael. You start.
Oh, shall I go first?
Oh, would you like me to go first?
You go first. You go first.
Easily the biggest story of the week, based on Adam's criteria, is what's going on in the Middle East. The region is close to all-out war, with Israel ground troops pushing into Lebanon. More than 200 Iranian ballistic missiles were then launched against Israel, followed by the Israeli Defense Forces striking Beirut. It's a humanitarian crisis. The Albanese government is working to get 1,700 Australian citizens and residents and their families out of Lebanon. But bringing it back to what Fear and Greed talks about, business, The crisis is having a major impact on financial markets. Oil prices have been reasonably low in recent months. We've all appreciated that at the petrol bowser. Guess what? Prices are going to rise. The region provides about 1/3 of the world's oil. Prices spiked yesterday after the US President Joe Biden kind of commented casually that the US and Israel had discussed striking Iranian oil fields. We are going to have to pay a lot more for petrol. The crisis has kept a bit of a lid on equity markets, plenty of optimism about equities, but the Middle East tensions are just putting downward pressure on stocks, other risk assets. One of those is the Aussie dollar that hit almost 69.5 US cents. It's come off now. It's back below that 69 cent level. Bitcoin's fallen. Gold, however, remains high. Good place to be for investors at a time of crisis. So by far the biggest story of the week is what's happening in the Middle East. And it's kind of not our cup of tea to go into that necessarily, but it's what that means for financial markets. That's the only story of the week. And I did it briefly. Michael.
You know why it was so brief? Because I didn't interrupt. See, that's the key to this. Is that if you started a timer, put your phone down. I don't want to see it. You know what? I just ignore you now. I'm going to close my eyes and not even look in your direction because I have a big story. And it's a story that's here at home. It is a story that is here at home because this week wasn't just any old week. This week it was a turning point. It was an inflection point. Inflection points always sound so much more impressive, don't they? For the Australian property market for two reasons. Two key reasons. I'm at 41 seconds. Sean, please put it down.
Stay stoic, Michael. Be strong. Keep going.
House price growth in several major cities, including Melbourne, as I mentioned, has stalled. The property market is cooling on the back of ongoing high interest rates. In the first month of spring, right, dwelling values just 0.4% up across the nation, taking the September quarter rise to 1%, according to CoreLogic. 4 capital cities, now listen to this, 4 capital cities led by Melbourne recorded a fall through the quarter. Sydney home prices grew at their slowest pace since the beginning of last year. Even the mid-sized capitals that we have talked about so many times, which have been charging upwards, well, they're now losing momentum. If that is not a turning point, if that is not an inflection point for the Australian property market, then I don't know what is. But wait, because this story actually gets even bigger. Because this week, we saw the first clear indicator.
You are hopeless. You are 2.5 minutes in. Adam and I have said nothing, and you're building yourself up. It's really hard for you to work without interruptions. That's the point. Like, you need to work off us.
No, I've got this. This week, we then saw...
I have no idea what you've said so far, to be honest.
It's because you've been fiddling with your phone the whole time. You've been trying to get your little timer going. And because you've got these kind of arthritic, jagged old claw hands...
2 minutes 53.
We saw the first clear indication this week, brace yourselves, that the rental boom is over. Yes, over. Perhaps. Annual rent increases for houses have hit multi-year lows in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide. In fact, in Melbourne and Canberra, rents have actually gone backwards. This is huge. Obviously, rents are still extremely high, but this is the first time, I reckon the first time in a very, very long time that there's actually been some real hope for renters. And consider this as well. We have known for a long time that there's obviously a rental crisis, but nothing illustrates just how severe it is and how much of a strain it has been putting on household budgets like these statistics. Now, Adam, write these down.
What was the word?
Statistics.
Yeah, good.
Did you heard me have to pause before I started it? Consider, Adam, write this down, that since March of 2020, house rents have risen 48%. Unit rents have risen 40%. Wages on the other hand, have gone up just 13%. That, to me, in just those three numbers, demonstrates just how severe the rental crisis is and how much of a strain it is putting on household budgets. Of course, this dynamite data, or what I would describe as a category-winning piece of information, didn't come directly from me. I might have had a little bit of help from Domain's head of research and economics, Dr. Nicola Powell, who I had a little chat to during the week.
Impressive. Doing some homework.
That's right. And she happily fed me this data when I told her how much I wanted to beat Sean. She goes, all right, here's some, write these down. And so I did, and I've incorporated them. Now, this is rare when you consider this. This is actually quite not the fact that I actually have data. That is, I suppose, rare as well. But what is particularly rare, particularly uncommon, I'm finishing up here. I'm building to something. What is particularly unusual is that there are such major developments on both the house price side, the actual housing value side, and the rental side of the market in the same week, right? It's like a comet and an eclipse being in the sky at the same time. And all we can do, right, is sit back and marvel at the wonder of it all. And really, I suppose, marvel at the wonder of the person who brought it to everybody's attention, me.
So, officially, Michael went 4 times as long as I did.
And he lost.
It is much more fun interrupting Michael than actually letting him go and listening to him.
When you say you lost, you were talking to me, right?
Yes, okay. Michael.
That's cool.
Michael, those stats are brilliant and really do hit people everywhere, whether it's rent or ownership. But it hasn't had the impact that the Middle East has this week. And, it's more of an unfolding story than a brand new piece of information.
Well, I would like to apologise to two people. Finn, who I feel I have let down.
No, you delivered on the melodrama.
No,
cannot
Adam,
be faulted there.
This is where I think Michael takes himself a little too seriously. See, the melodrama is helped by the interruptions from you and I. When it was just you and I for 6 minutes being quiet, saying nothing, it got a bit dull.
Well, that's because
I
had
too many. Michael.
Maybe that's because I had too many stats in there. Maybe I need
so
less.
So you're going to blame Nicola, are you?
Yes, actually, I'm sorry, Nicola Powell. I appreciate your efforts to help me, but you lost it for me.
Oh, tough. Very tough. Nicola, I apologise on behalf of Fear and Greed for that childish behaviour from Michael.
Yeah, and on my behalf, Nicola, it was really only the stats that got the story somewhere.
I feel like I might be teaching Finn some bad lessons here on sportsmanship.
Yeah.
But you know what? The real lesson here is just pick yourself up and win the next category.
That's right.
Get back on stage. The show must go on, Michael.
Indeed. And then you crush your opponents and you take revenge on them, Finn.
Remarkable story. Go.
What's remarkable is that Virgin Australia finished this week in a much, 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 much stronger position than it started. And in a way, Qantas only has itself to blame for this. And I find that part of this story particularly remarkable. The details of the story are actually very simple. So in a nutshell, this story, and I'll keep this short. Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways has agreed to buy... You couldn't help
yourself, could you?
I absolutely couldn't. It had to be said. Qatar has agreed to buy 25%. That is a quarter. 25%.
Really?
That was for Finn. That was for Finn. I'm helping with fractions.
A 7-year-old coming on to 8 who's listening to Fear and Greed. Finn, I guarantee you know that 25% is a quarter.
Well, he does now. Because I just told him. 25% of Virgin from its private equity owner, Bain Capital. It means Virgin will resume long-haul international routes using Qatar's planes. Virgin will once again, officially be a truly international airline. I mean, it still has to be reviewed by the Foreign Investment Review Board and the ACCC, but this is, all the signs are good. right? I mean, it had support on both sides of politics this week. It is great news for passengers. More competition in the long-haul market, so cheaper flights, and it strengthens Virgin immensely. After all, Qatar Airways is the number one airline in the world. It has got some serious weight, which could flow through to Virgin in the form of, as Sean pointed out to us through the week, lower fuel and aircraft maintenance costs. And Qatar's involvement should also attract the interest of other investors, importantly. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot earlier, because I realise I've been going on for at least 30 seconds now, the most remarkable part of all of this is the way that Qantas is to blame for strengthening its biggest local rival. Because Qatar was, of course, pushing to get more flights into Australia last year. Qantas lobbied hard against it, and it created quite a political storm when the government sided with the national carrier and blocked Qatar. Well, now Qatar has got plenty of extra flights, essentially through its Virgin purchase, which don't need to be approved separately. So Qatar wins, Virgin wins, the passengers win, and Qantas loses. It is all remarkable. And that's it, done. Brevity, clarity, concision.
Concision.
Is that a word?
No, but it doesn't matter. Just let them keep going.
I thought brevity's fine, clarity's fine. What's conciseness?
Yeah,
Concision.
probably.
You know what, Finn? I've done my best. Let's see what Sean can do.
I do think that is a very good story. I do. But nothing on my story.
Mm.
My story actually matters, not just to people flying planes, but to people with share portfolios. Michael, I want you to not smile when I say this. My most remarkable story is the Great Rotation. It's truly remarkable in how, in a matter of 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, resource stocks have surged and bank stocks have dropped, such that BHP is once again the big Australian, taking the top spot on the ASX 200 from the Commonwealth Bank. Started last week when Beijing promised lower interest rates and other stimuli to help the world's second largest economy. That triggered a surge in commodity prices. Iron ore prices topped $100 a tonne. That sent the share price of the big miners high. All three are up around 12 to 15% since the middle of last week. Quite phenomenal. The banks, on the other hand, have gone the other way. BHP now has a market cap of $230 billion. Commonwealth Bank is worth $225 billion. Streets ahead of number 3, CSL, at about $140 billion. Size doesn't really matter when it comes to investing. It's more future earnings, but it is interesting, Michael. But it is interesting. The question is, Michael, now we've decided size doesn't matter. Is it the beginning of a great rotation from bank stocks to resources on the ASX? Maybe. Though plenty, including Matthew Kidman, who we spoke to during the week, don't think that's the case because Beijing still has to turn around the Chinese economy. Given the consensus view on National Australia Bank, Westpac and ANZ is sell, these are the experts, their consensus view is sell those stocks. On Commonwealth Bank, it's strong sell. That's according to Market Index. Is it fund managers finally deciding to stop buying banks? Again, the answer is maybe. Given investors have been wrong about this for about 18 months, few are ready to totally subscribe to that view. So is the bank sell down because interest rates in Australia will eventually fall? Banks are supposed to suffer in a falling interest rate environment. Basically, their cost of funding doesn't fall by as much as what they're paying out on loans. They get squeezed. Maybe. Depends on market and the competition. Whatever the reason, it is just quite remarkable, the turnaround in bank stocks and resource stocks over the last 8 days or so. Adam.
What a ripper challenge this is.
And concision is a word, just for the record. I looked it up while Sean was talking.
You are so petty, Michael. So petty.
No, I mean, you questioned.
Finn, don't take lessons from Michael.
No, be like me. Pick up on other people's mistakes and criticize.
And go hard on them.
That's right. That's right. Don't let people get away with things. All right, Adam.
Okay. Really interesting battle and both brilliant stories, really, both remarkable. I have given this one to Michael. Now, I know this is an unorthodox choice. The reason is this.
No more unorthodox than normal.
So the reason is this. Basically, Qatar was knocked back by the government, but private enterprise found a way around what the government wouldn't do.
Yeah, it's like life in Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. Anyway, sorry.
That Virgin and Qatar got together and navigated this solution, I think is really good and remarkable.
Do you know what I like about your judging sometimes? Is it has absolutely nothing to do with what Michael or I have said. It's kind of about what you know about the story.
I made those
it
points.
Is fueled by you both.
I made those points. Like not in those exact words or in those themes or anything.
Nor did I use the idea of private enterprise working away right now. But deep down, Michael.
I said they found a way. Oh, no, I didn't. Actually, that was Adam. But you know what? The vibe was there. Yeah.
It's 1-1.
It's 1-1.
Okay. All right. We are running a little overtime through no fault of anyone here. So we will keep the second half much, much faster than the first. We'll be back in a moment with a sleeper story of the week. All right, Sean, we are looking for a sleeper story of the week. Now, a sleeper story is, of course, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, not getting the attention that we feel it deserves. I'm going to go first on this one, if that's okay.
Yes.
Because anyone who knows me
here we go,
knows that I am a keen observer of the International Monetary Fund. I love that none of us in the studio are able to keep a straight face at that. And what I like about the IMF is that they're looking out for us here in Australia. Because just like the two of you heading off to the doctor for your annual checkup as you get older and older and older, the IMF does an annual health check of the Australian economy. And you know what? It doesn't get enough attention. It is a sleeper story. And it deserves more attention because what we have here is an almost impartial view of what Australia needs to do to prepare itself for prosperity. Goodness me, I set myself up to fail there. To prepare itself for prosperity.
Is this another one of those Lao Tzu things? Remember last week, Adam? He started talking.
I'm not quoting any philosophers. I'm not quoting anyone else. Can I summarize? In summary,
please,
the story.
Yes.
And once again, with a focus on brevity and as we discussed, concision. The IMF endorsed what the RBA is doing on rates right now. It issued a bit of a warning to the government on spending, particularly the cost of living relief that goes to everybody, not just those who need it. So I'm just going to wrap up all the kind of key details of the story into one, get the details out of the way so I can get to the fun part. They warned that the rates may need to rise if the work to get inflation down doesn't continue. There we go. That's pretty much it. Now to the good stuff.
God has a lot going on in your mind when you're trying to kind of do these stories, especially the economics IMF, and you can see your mind, like you're just trying to skip that stuff so we can get to the melodrama.
Yeah.
And you can see your mind working.
What is the minimum number of facts I need
you are
to get on stage?
Absolutely right. I am riddled with self-doubt when it comes to facts and the economy. But where I have an unlimited supply of self-belief and self-confidence is in the melodrama.
Righto, let's go.
Let it flow.
Okay. This is not melodrama. This is real. This is legit. I need to talk to you about the reform part of what the IMF said. And this is quite frankly, this is where it gets really interesting because the IMF has been really blunt. They've been quite frank here. They're calling for an overhaul of tax systems, phasing out super tax concessions and the capital gains tax discount to fund a reduction in personal income and company tax rates. Now, this is all pie in the sky stuff, really. The IMF can say all of this because they are removed from it. They are they are well and truly removed from any political realities within Australia, right? And maybe that is why this is a sleeper story. Because the IMF is commenting from the other side of the world. It's not here. It's not a political leader being bold, calling for reform. And you know what? You know something. When I heard
Just a look on your face. Here we go.
When I heard about this story, I thought of you, Adam, because
Okay.
you are a true advocate for tax reform. You are deeply, deeply passionate about the need for change. And I thought for a second, I reckon the IMF didn't go hard enough here. I thought, where was the call for the raising of the GST, the broadening of the base for the GST? The world is doing this kind of thing, and we're not. We are being left behind on bold moves because nobody is willing to do something, even say something that is politically unpopular. Well, I am going to use the sleeper story this week to highlight the work of the International Monetary Fund, that poor, downtrodden organisation that needs me to give them this platform. This is a true sleeper story for the people. This is for you, Finn, and for you, Adam, as well.
Well, I'm trying to work out what the sleeper part is.
Well, it's the fact that no one really gives this the attention that it needs because
because it ain't ever going to happen.
Exactly. But we have a blueprint. You know what? We have a blueprint here. And maybe people dismiss it like you, Sean. Maybe we shouldn't be so dismissive. And that's when it could actually happen. A groundswell of support, a tax-based coup, perhaps. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Can I there you are. Can I just, I don't like to comment on Michael's stories, but that was,
Since when?
that was appalling. Like, as a sleeper story, that was one of your worst efforts ever.
I don't think so. And we'll see what Adam thinks
I mean,
later.
oh,
It's got tax reform.
oh.
It's got tax reform. It's got all the bits that Adam likes.
What my sleeper story has is meaning. It's a great sleeper story. It's how fast the hydrogen energy sector is going backwards, as demonstrated by Origin Energy's decision to pull the plug on its investments in the technology. Hydrogen has been lauded as a clean energy source with potential uses, particularly in heavy industry, around transport, that type of stuff. Problem is, this week we found out that not only is it expensive, but the technology breakthroughs just aren't happening fast enough. And that will put more pressure on other renewables like wind and solar. It'll ensure gas plays a role in the energy mix for a long time to come. Now, Origin Chief Executive Frank Calabria said it was clear that the hydrogen market was developing more slowly than anticipated, and there remains risks in terms of costs and technology advancements. Now, remember in July, Fortescue dropped plans for green hydrogen production. The Albanese government, it has this thing called the Hydrogen Head Start program, about $6.7 billion in production tax credits, plus a subsidy for the production of hydrogen energy. But who's going to take advantage of it? Two of the biggest players are now out of the market. The government says Australia has the largest pipeline of hydrogen projects in the country, value about $225 billion. But they're just not working. They're not coming to fruition. You can say that all you want. But when you've got energy and Fortescue pulling out of the market, or actually pulling back from the market, it's a real problem. I think hydrogen energy, it's not quite dead, but it's what we found out this week is that it's not really a fuel for the future, not in the short term. Concise, sensible, with meaning. No acronyms. Over to you.
Well, each story has their own level of achievement.
What did Michael achieve?
Well, look, I think I have to disclose something here.
You don't.
The words that Michael said, it was like I was being channeled in some of that. And I suspect that maybe there's a little sort of me drawing that story.
May I confess something here? Yesterday, I was talking to Adam about some other things altogether, and just completely out of the blue.
I may have gone on a spray.
Completely out of the blue, I just said to Adam, I said, "Hey, Adam, what do you think about the IMF?"
The words "didn't go hard enough" do sound very familiar.
And he just goes, you know what? They didn't go hard enough. Where was the call for the raising of the GST? And I'm just like, keep going. Wrote it all down word for word, used it today. So if I don't win, Adam, it is a travesty. It is a gross miscarriage of justice.
Well, it's also the fact that I obviously sound like a crushing bore at times. And Michael, thank you for hearing me out. Both stories are about market distortion, and how that should be reformed. On this one, I think for the timeliness of it, the sleeper and hydrogen has to go together. This is really a story about artificial support without the adequate science. Obviously, Twiggy Forrest made a massive plunge at it, had to pull back. The government has enabled a lot of that, and it's really trying to distort the market. And it just hasn't worked in this instance. So, Sean, I think you win on Sleeper Story of the Week.
Is Michael getting any points for the IMF story?
Oh, yeah.
Many.
It's reform and tax.
But it's not going to happen.
And me, subjective bias.
Let's just go on a favourite story.
It's a story that's not getting the attention that it deserves because there are some good ideas there. This is what a sleeper story is for.
My favourite story comes from Japan because I've always wanted to sign up to a gym where I didn't have to exercise. There's an increasingly popular gym franchise in Japan that offers important things like teeth whitening, manicure equipment, photo booths. You can actually use weights if you want.
Oh,
that's sort of marginal,
right?
No,
incidental.
It's called ChocoZap, CHOCOZAP, ChocoZap. It's part of a $1 billion fitness company that made its name in high-end personal training. This is the business part, Adam, just for you.
Thank you.
COVID hit. It had to rethink. So it tapped into sort of the more casual, more frugal gym user. In less than 2 years, ChocoZap has opened 1,500 locations, has 1.2 million plus members. It charges about $20. Typically, a Japanese gym charges 3 or 4 times that amount. So it has these masses of people. They say it's working because people spend more time working flexible hours and from home, and because members are seeking out more enriching experiences while keeping fit. I say it's working because you can go to the gym and not break out a sweat. And and you can casually boast about your gym membership.
And get your nails did.
Absolute genius. Absolute genius.
This is a good story. I enjoy that one. I mean, it's nice to finish on a positive note and not kind of a personal attack.
Here we go.
Yep.
My favourite story is a simple tale of thrift, of surviving the cost of living crisis and the abject snobbery of one Sean Aylmer. The story itself is a very straightforward one. It's a fascinating one. Vintage shopping, as we discussed through the week on the podcast, is booming. Now, vintage shopping makes it sound very, very cool, but it is essentially it is buying secondhand clothes. Think Vinnies, think the Salvos, think your community op shop. Except think bigger now, because in the US, sales, they are off the charts. It is staggering, the growth of this industry, growing at 7 times the pace of the broader retail industry. In fact, the demand is so strong that big retailers like Banana Republic, H&M, Lululemon, J. Crew, Abercrombie and Fitch, they're all getting into it, selling pre-loved clothes. Now, I think this is great for a few reasons. Number one, buying and chucking out cheaply made clothes, kind of fast fashion, is terrible for the environment. This is infinitely more sustainable. I don't actually know technically if it is infinite. There's probably a number for it, but that's just kind of hyperbole.
Judging from how Michael turns up in the studio, he doesn't throw out his clothes. Not quickly, anyway.
I'll tell you what, this jumper that I'm wearing at the moment.
That's getting a run. That jumper is getting a run.
The green sloppy Joe that I just toss on whenever it's like a bit cold, and you only wear it for like half an hour. I wore it the other day when I did a video for TikTok, and it was a video where I was in Bunnings. Someone commented rather cruelly on the TikTok video about the jumper that I was wearing. And they decided that their first comment wasn't enough. So they came back and had a second crack. This is without any kind of reaction from me. I just saw both comments one after the other. And the second one was something along the lines of, you must be beating the ladies off with a jumper like that. I'm like, and you know what? It has really, really, really got under my skin.
Yeah.
So, hasn't stopped me wearing the jumper, though. Anyway, fast fashion, terrible for the environment. So recycling, reusing, reselling clothes, fantastic. That's a big tick. That's number one. One reason why it's so good. Second reason why this story is so good, it is a revival of bricks and mortar shopping. People aren't buying secondhand online. It is in store. That's fascinating. That's another good point. That's number two. The third reason, it is cost effective. All right. Nobody has a fortune to spend on clothes or anything, really. So this is removing at last the taboo from secondhand shopping, a taboo that has been perpetuated this week by one Sean Aylmer, who declared on Fear and Greed that he would never do it. Never do it for all kinds of reasons, mostly hygiene, I think it was. And I am here as the man of the people to say, come on down, Sean, from your ivory tower. Come on down. If you were in trouble, Sean, if you were in trouble, I would give you the shirt off my back, but you wouldn't want that, would you?
No.
You wouldn't put it on.
I wouldn't mind that green sloppy Joe, though. That'd be nice.
Sean, would never walk a mile in somebody else's shoes because you'd never put them on in the first place because it's a bit icky, isn't it? It is an outrage. It is snobbery of the highest order, and I'm here to say enough. Enough of the snobbery. Bring back secondhand shopping. I'm glad to see that vintage shopping is booming. It is my favourite story of the week. And Finn, I hope that I have done you proud with my personal attacks on a colleague and friend.
Whoa. Let's leave it at colleague.
Oh.
I love this Japan's Choco Zap and how they've made a business out of it. Incredible. Creche for adults, really.
Yes.
But amazing array of services that they've commercialised. And I do love the vintage clothing thrift too. I actually think it's fantastic. So I'm going to have to give you a dead heat on this story.
Ooh.
Oh, I don't like that.
Oh, I do.
So what's that?
I do. I believe that's 2.5 to 1.5.
It is.
So I can still win it on the points.
You could still win it on the points. That's true.
In theory, well, in actual fact, it's 92 points each. It's a dead heat on the points. But Sean wins on the story count.
How can I lose?
Sean didn't just want to win on stories.
Your judging criteria is appalling. I'm going. Goodbye.
I have sown the seeds of dissent between the two of you.
Farewell.
You are now criticising each other instead of criticising me, and that is the way I like to end things. Congratulations, Sean, on your rather hollow victory.
But it was a victory, nonetheless.
I suppose. It's kind of a victory. Anyway, thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Sean.
Make sure you're following the podcast, and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, and check out my jumper on TikTok. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great weekend.